Let's have a great show, everyone. So I've hit the go live button. All right, and we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Opportunities with Pixel Streaming. I am Quentin Anderson, the host for today's show, and we have an amazing panel here today. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and thank you very much to our panelists for taking time out of your busy schedule today to be here with us. I sincerely appreciate it. So, to go ahead and get started, the game plan for this hour is broken into 4 segments. The first segment, we will first meet the panelists, where they will overview some of their projects that they're working on and their work interests. The second segment is panelist perspectives, where we will ask them some questions to gain some insight into their opinions related to the industry. The third segment is What If, where we will then ask more broad, open-ended questions, which are fun and help us think about what the future could look like. And then in the fourth and final segment, we will have a Q&A. As always, these are live shows, and please, please, please do not hesitate to ask any questions. We highly encourage it. If you would like to ask a question, it's very simple. Just go to the YouTube chat and enter the question, and then we will make sure it gets to the right person. It does help if you include the name of the person you like the question directed to, just to make sure that we route it appropriately. So let's go ahead and meet our panelists. First, we have Mark Hamilton. He is the product lead of Digital Twin at JLL. Mark Hamilton leads JLL's digital solutions team in the Middle East and Africa as a digital transformation specialist in the real estate industry. With 10 years of experience, he focuses on maximizing value in real estate through technology, data, and streamlined workflows. Mark also represented Fortune 500 companies at Stanford University for virtual design and construction at the Digital City Summit. Mark, thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Quentin. Thank you for having me, and thanks for the introduction. So I'll just give a quick background on myself and some of the exciting projects I'm focusing on to leverage pixel streaming, Unreal Engine, and how we're working to solve some pretty interesting and exciting use cases. So going into my background, was working with Stanford University before on some emerging technologies within the real estate and construction space. This was related more so to data capture of real estate assets. From there, with JLL, we saw some large opportunities for digitization of large commercial real estate spaces. So this happened in Riyadh on a large development called King Abdullah Financial District. Real estate and construction space. This was related more so to, and our team ended up doing 3D scanning with LiDAR for 48 buildings, approximately 33 million square feet. And from there, we produced building information models, which helped restart construction on this partially completed development. From this stage, we began looking into leveraging our real estate, our real estate intelligence information, our real estate market information, and combining it with the building specific data, as well as assisting the process to get into operations. From there, we looked into developing a digital twin application. This was done in WebGL technology using a GIS-based viewer. When we had an issue with pretty much getting all of this data into the same application, querying the data. That's when we started working with Epic, and we actually ended up being able to import a lot of our GIS assets into Unreal Engine, and that's when we started working with Eagle 3D on how do we stream that content to the users. Essentially, from there we began implementing this as a custom application for another well-known government entity within the Middle East. And that's the project we're working now with Eagle 3D. We're in the final stages of the first release, so we'll go live actually in a few days. So we're pretty excited about that. And in addition, I think I personally was very inspired by the capabilities of pixel streaming, the ability to do data capture of not only real estate assets, but hyper-realistic virtual experiences. And because I can't showcase the project in Abu Dhabi due to IP-related concerns, I'll do a quick demo of a hyper-realistic virtual experience application I'm currently building, and we're currently working on pixel streaming in the very near future. So I'll just quickly share my screen. I'll go through a 30-second clip of this application. So let me just adjust, go into this. So what we're doing is building hyper-realistic virtual experiences. We've done data capture of 5 what we call space holders. They're a mix of 2 yogis having 2 full 45-minute yoga sessions and 2 DJs. Here, I'll just play the video quickly. I'll turn the sound on. This is a short clip that we've worked just to get it processed and viewable for this purposes of this panel. So this is the yoga flow. The yogi is Carlos Romero, so he's a real yogi. He's wearing pants from one well-known brand here, so we modeled the pants. We paired the motion capture data to his metahuman, and we put it into the virtual world. So this is something we're working to launch very shortly, hopefully within the next month. So thank you, Quentin, for the opportunity, and I'll stop sharing my screen and hand it back over to you.
Yes, and thank you so much, Mark, for that overview of your project. I'm sure there are lots of interesting questions and angles we can explore with what you're doing later on in the show. Thank you for that overview. Next, we have Stephanie Molenfeld. She is the owner and founder of the Squad Nation. Stephanie is a 20-year veteran of the apparel industry, a bra and sports expert known for her deep expertise in anthropometry and biomechanics. Her scope and breadth have expanded to the fields of integrated medical devices and wearables, in which her company, The Squad, utilizes XR platforms and pixel streaming to innovate across virtual and physical product pipelines. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, thank you. I'm happy to be here among so many incredible experts. We are a data-driven company, innovation company started 5 years ago, where infrastructure was important and incorporating any digital pipelines that we can integrate and make sure that we really combined any concept through POC to MVP. And so incorporating pixel streaming and virtual assets all the way from concept design through to consumer facing products is really where we honed in our skills. We specialize in really highly complex products. And so anything from something that's super simple, such as compression, to multiple substrates that have various moduluses that have to interact on the body in various states across men's and women's. Body types and shapes can be very different. Skin composition can be very different. And so we utilize the virtual reality and space to create simulations, test, modify before we go into physical product builds. And that helps us not only turn products faster, but also make informed data-driven decisions in creating products for the various industries. So we work across apparel, medical class 2 and 3 devices, and wearable tech.
Wonderful.
So
Thank you. Thank you for that overview. And it's so cool seeing pixel streaming have an intersection with apparel. It's a very, very, very cool intersection. Thank you, Stephanie. Next, we have Hannes Walter. Hannes is the SVP of Product Marketing at Black Shark AI. Hannes leads product marketing at Black Shark, the geospatial metaverse company that built a photorealistic 3D digital twin of the planet using AI and machine learning, applied to satellite and aerial imagery. He previously led business development for professional mixed reality software solution at major ICT integrators. Hannes holds an MSc in Media and Interaction Design. Hannes, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Quentin, for having me. So it's really a pleasure. Maybe a bit more to my background. So I had a startup once doing 3D prints and laser cut jewelry made out of OpenStreetMap data. And now being at Black Shark, basically everything comes together somehow. So GIS, 3D computer graphics, gaming, and so on. So it's really cool to work for Black Shark. And what Black Shark did is to develop a platform which turns freshly taken satellite imagery and georeferenced sensor data and imagery into a photorealistic 3D twin of globe. And initially, we developed this technology and this platform for the new Microsoft Flight Simulator. Back then, we did it based on Bing imagery. And now we have a wonderful and great strategic partnership with Maxa Technologies. So today is actually the day where Maxa Technology announced the official availability of Synth 3D, the 3D replica of the entire globe derived from Maxa satellite data. And maybe gonna give you a quick live demo how that looks like, the entire globe in 3D. Just quickly jump into the demo. So this is Barcelona in Spain, where the Mobile World Congress is gonna start on Monday. And what you see here is the outcome of our platform. So if I turn off our synthetic buildings, you see the input data, which we get from Nexar, and we detect certain aspects like building footprints, building splits, building heights, and so on the entire planet. And our generative AI turns this into this realistic looking 3D environment, which is used for various use cases and industries. So from energy to gaming, entertainment, media, the applications are really limitless. And as you can imagine, so this runs on my gaming laptop based on the Unreal Engine, which is nice and fine. But if people want to use that on their smartphone or their tablet and so on, we are instantly going to pixel streaming. So this is a very wonderful combination. So that, for instance, georeferenced data can be used by maintenance workers, for instance, on their mobile device. So yeah, it's exciting to have this combination of these possibilities.
Yes, thank you, Hannes. There are many, many interesting possibilities, and hopefully we can explore some of those later on in our panel. And thank you very much for that overview. Next, we have Matt Schaus. He is the COO and co-founder of Thea Interactive. As a co-founder of Thea, Matt leads the team of artists and developers in creating high-fidelity Unreal Engine, XR, and Metaverse experiences. As COO, he focuses on day-to-day operations, as well as strategic planning, contracts, customer success, and ensuring projects are delivered on time and on budget. Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing great. Yeah, thanks for having me, and yeah, excited to kind of talk with all of you today. So a bit of background on my end. So we founded the Interactive in 2014. Back then, we were doing primarily architecture, like AEC design review projects, working with apartments and various like small hotels, moving into hotels and casinos, all built in Unreal Engine. Right around that time, the Oculus DK1 came out, so we started doing a bunch of stuff with VR, AR kit, started doing some AR stuff. So a lot of it was XR for the first probably 5 or 6 years, getting more and more interactive with what we could do with Unreal. And over the last 3 years, we've really seen a shift as everyone's working from home and kind of being more scattered to not everyone having high-powered VR headsets and desktop computers. So we've moved into pixel streaming. And that has really kind of led us into kind of this whole metaverse conversation and what things look like there. So at Thea, we really focus now on what we're calling meta spaces, which is kind of a solution for us let me go ahead and share my screen, to work with enterprise customers to kind of help them build bespoke solutions and unique and memorable experiences. And typically these are all pixel streamed to different customers. And so we really focus on photoreal visuals, dynamic interaction, and easy collaboration. And that easy collaboration is through pixel streaming. And then our kind of core solutions where we work is world building. So building spaces from the ground up, doing all the concept design and everything like that. Virtual showrooms, working with customers that have some sort of BIM data to bring in and make it look photoreal one-to-one with their actual space, or design review. That's kind of more that typical AEC, doing design review, digital twin, things like that. And so a quick demo, kind of what we've been doing. So these are just kind of the latest show reels. This is a bunch of kind of experiences all compiled together. All of these different environments and spaces have been optimized to run pixel streaming. So they're all of these are actually running on Eagle 3D. I think we've got something like 12 projects on Eagle 3D right now. So it's definitely been a very nice tool for us to be able to work with customers and kind of deploy things midstream so they can see how it all works. So yeah, that is kind of a high level for Thea. And we don't need to watch all of that, but yeah, that's it for me.
Cool. Thank you very much, Matt. Lots of eye candy to check out, and thank you for sharing a little bit about what Thea does. So let's go ahead and get into the next segment, which is panelist perspectives. And we've prepared some questions in advance of topics that we'd like to explore with our panelists in their specific field of expertise. So I will direct the questions to specific panelists, but everyone else, please feel free to hop in at any point if you feel that you could piggyback off the response or add any additional insight. Stephanie, let's maybe start with you. And something that I'm definitely very curious about is how did you discover the intersection between Unreal Engine, pixel streaming, and apparel design?
Oh man, put me on the hot seat. First question up. So a couple years ago, we were at a conference and Unreal was presenting. And since we have this, digital thread going through our pipeline of design and development, when they were presenting, we realized that this was going to be an unlock for us, huge addition in our toolbox of creating that wow factor for our clients. And 2D is great in presenting designs, but nothing quite delivers as a 3D experience, and having that interactive experience delivered to our clients, especially showcasing the complexity of designs that go on the human body and have to move and shape and flex and ultimately function, was incredibly important to us, especially for wearables that require skin connectivity to work.
And so the option or the decision to go with Unreal Engine, was it because of real time? Could we use 3ds Max or maybe Maya? Or what was so cool about the game engine for your projects?
It's really the accessibility of pixel streaming. So using the gaming engine to further create and develop into showcasing spaces, and then show that interconnectivity and interaction, and bringing that real world idea, or bringing that idea to a real world, conceptual space before it's actually delivered physically, was probably the biggest unlock for us. Most of the time people are super visual, and we often work from napkin sketches, right? So getting that napkin sketch to a fully conceptualized product in a 3D space and having it accessible in pixel streaming was, again, it was the unlock for us. And it was that bridge that we often have to make for clients to the realized version of their product.
Yeah, yes, and it's been very, very cool to see the application that you have come up with. So, Mark, just kind of thinking about some of the areas that you're experienced in, I know that you do a lot in the digital twin space. Why would you say that there's been a rapid growth in the digital twin space, and which applications would be particularly strengthened by publishing to the cloud, would you say? Oh, and you're on mute.
Yeah, I would say that's a good question. I think where we've started to see a change is in the convergence of data in the real estate space and the value that leveraging this data from kind of planning to design into operations, that there is quite a lot of value in being able to leverage that data. So you're seeing the data systems, whether it's BIM or operational software like a CAFM system that can leverage information from BIM. These systems, as they're becoming more mature and you're having more standard data standards across these different systems, you're able to integrate this data and find efficiencies. So I think that's a change that's happening due to the maturity in the market. Now, where I'm seeing, I would say, definitely the most excitement is going into the digital twin space for cities, because it's not only about client related data. If you're a large scale real estate developer and you have specific information about design of your buildings or operation of your buildings, or even ERP information that talks about your sales data across the city, you can bring all of this data together, and it may take quite a lot of effort on your side, which is a digital transformation process. It's now possible to integrate all of these data sets and systems into a simultaneous platform or engine that you can build. So that's why we're seeing the emergence of digital twins. What I find really exciting is not this specific route of client digital transformation, but how you can derive value from being able to leverage other data sets which are available in the market. So this is something we're experiencing with some of our clients, that we put in a tremendous amount of effort to leverage specific data, maybe from their ERP system or their geodatabase, and bring all these together in the same platform. Whereas we can just go into the market, and we have an engagement currently with Black Shark, where we're procuring Black Shark data for a specific city, bringing this into our engine, as well as procuring a lot of other additional real estate market data sets. So when you can then assign these real estate market data sets that are done per building based upon surveys to building physical, virtual buildings that are represented by Black Shark buildings, we can assign that data, and all of a sudden we can derive a whole lot more real estate market intelligence without going through the very, very difficult problem of client digital transformation. Of course, this is something that can happen on one end, but I think being able to import various other data sets into your platform, as well as the digital transformation process clients have, is something that's really exciting. And as these systems are becoming more, I would say, heavy, they're not systems that are like previous on-premise deployed systems. Clients are becoming more sophisticated. They're using cloud. And then when you develop these applications which are using pixel streaming, it's easy to connect to the back-end client database, which is in the cloud, and then route that data and assign it to the 3D attributes within your front-end engine. So I would say those are the things I'm most excited about, and why I'm seeing it more as a revolutionary change we're now experiencing in the industry. And of course, pixel streaming and bringing high fidelity content into that space helps tremendously, as well as the actual data sets, which provide the real value to the clients.
Very, very cool. So it's sort of the migration or movement to the cloud, and then commingling of adding multiple different data sets that's starting to unlock the value, in your opinion, for digital twins?
Yes, because you could bring in more data sets. With Unreal Engine, you can bring in so many things. You could bring in plot boundaries that represent a whole city. You can assign data attributes to each of those plot boundaries from a backend database and visualize it in Unreal. You can bring in buildings that represent every building in the city that came from Black Shark, So I think there's so many ways of providing additional value, as opposed to a client just saying, yeah, I want to see this building in 3D and link it to my asset management. That's not really that exciting, in my opinion. So
cool. Thank you. That was that was a great insight. And speaking of Black Shark, Hannes, to kind of transition over to some of the points that Mark was making. So you guys have created a digital twin of the entire planet. What were some of the big technical problems that your team was looking to set out to solve initially with this approach to your platform?
Okay, I think one challenge, of course, is the amount of data which you have to deal with. So a global satellite data set comes with a couple of thousands of petabytes. So that's for sure one challenge. Then if you want to train a machine learning model that detects at global scale, you need a lot of labeled data and ground truth data. Another challenge. Therefore, we developed our own tools basically because there was nothing out there. Then, of course, to transform this detected insights into a regional specific architecture is another big challenge. So buildings vary all over the globe a lot. And basically, yeah, we needed to take this into account. And eventually, of course, bringing this 3D digital twin to the actual user and to the screen. So the Microsoft Flight Simulator is streaming in the data, but of course not as a pixel stream, but as a proprietary, very thin data layer, which gets unfolded and unlocked on the client machine. Which is totally fine for the Microsoft Flight Simulator because people don't expect anything else. But as I mentioned before already, if we want to provide this possibility basically to everyone, yeah, there is no other way than pixel streaming. And from our perspective, this is just the next step basically. So we took on all those challenges, which I mentioned. And now the next challenge is basically to bring this possibility and this awesome data to everyone so that it can combine and integrate it in applications and unlocks the potential there. Yeah.
Yeah, and so when we think about applications and potential, which ones do you think would be the most exciting for you to see that are unlocked by Black Shark?
Well, currently, I think it's really around smart cities. That's a good one. So we see a lot of traction in the energy sector as well, and for energy applications. But eventually, of course, I personally would like to have it on everyone's mobile device for kind of mapping applications and so on. So when we attach this synthetic facade layer, this can be, of course, more realistic and meet the reality more and more. And the only thing that's missing is the accurate input data. And with all the self-driving cars, drones, robots, autonomous systems in general, we think all this additional high accurate input data will be available very soon. And this basically just gives us the possibility to meet reality with our 3D twin pretty soon, basically. So, yeah.
Yeah. And one thing I'm curious about is were there some reasons why your team decided to focus on Unreal Engine first over the other available options, or what's the connection between Unreal and Black Shark?
Mm-hmm. So Microsoft Flight Sim uses their own proprietary engine, and back then and still currently the Unreal Engine is the best option. Which comes out of the box with so many possibilities, plugins, pixel streaming built into a certain extent already. So we see it as the best option also in a long-term view, thinking of all kinds of metaverse applications. So Epic and Unreal Engine does a very good job of thinking ahead and what might come next and put the right things on their roadmap. And so we think it's a good choice to go with Unreal Engine, let's say.
And Quentin, just to add something onto that, one thing that I find really like mind-blowing to comprehend is that when we were testing importing some of Black Shark's data, if we're trying to load a Revit model that's not optimized for BIM, it's almost heavier in a city level game or application than all of the buildings of the entire city. So just understanding how well something that's optimized in Unreal versus something that's not optimized in Unreal impacts the performance of an application is something that's, yeah, I think it's really mind blowing.
Yeah, it's super cool to see sort of the care that Black Shark took in optimizing the geometry, because it's still photorealistic, but it's super lightweight. You know, and that doesn't happen by chance. And
Yeah.
you know, and Hannes, another question, and that kind of brings up another question that you mentioned, Mark. So, Hannes, could you explain maybe the difference between what a geotypical building is and what a hero or landmark building is?
Yeah, for us, or geotypical means the actual building might look slightly different in terms of the facade and even the geometry. But overall, the appearance of a certain region or city and so on looks realistic. So Barcelona with this, with Sagrada Familia, for instance, as landmark building, gets recognized instantly by everyone as Barcelona, although certain buildings might look slightly different. So that's regional typically.
But it is possible to add in a landmark or hero building to a Black Shark dataset.
Absolutely. So basically, you can replace any building, any Black Shark building with your own building, with your own CAD model. So for architectural planning, that's a very common use case. Basically, what we provide is a realistic context. Otherwise, you would have a white canvas, and we provide the entire globe as canvas where you can put in your own data, georeferenced, all kinds of georeferenced data sets and so on. And you can hone it and yeah, combine it as you wish, basically.
Great, great. And thank you, Hannes, for all of that overview. Matt, we will move on to you. I know that your team is very well seasoned in creating Unreal Engine virtual experiences. So it'd be great to get your insights in what you would consider the difference between a good virtual environment and a great virtual environment.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of a bit of a subjective question depending on what the kind of client need is on what is great. But typically, what we find, like where we really focus, is on the kind of whatever else I'm talking about, but performance and making sure that that is really optimized and working with these data sets that we get, which are typically unoptimized Revit models or things like that, and making sure that we can really make sure that those things run smoothly, because nothing will pull a user out of having a good experience than frame drops and kind of that break in realism. So trying to make sure that we're doing that, making sure things like scale are right when users are walking through. This is more of a problem with VR, but everything in VR always seemed to look too small or was too big, and there was always seemed to be some extra level of complexity with trying to have that like digitally twin type experience in a virtual environment. And then I think the other kind of like key thing for us is user experience and making sure that we've got that kind of user flow figured out. What is the goal of the application? What's that goal of that environment? And just trying to make sure that kind of we're matching the if it's real world, matching how that looks and feels, lighting and everything like that, or if it's totally a virtual space, then making sure that we kind of look at some game design principles, or even we look at theme parks a lot. Like, how do theme parks, migrate people and make sure that things feel good, and there's always good sight lines, and there's clear, this is where you should go next. Yeah, so I think those are kind of the key things that we try to look for.
And I know your team has a reputation for quality in all the experiences that you implement. How do you maintain that type of culture in a company? Because it just doesn't magically happen, I assume.
Yeah.
How does that go about?
Yeah, I mean, it has been kind of something that we've just always tried to strive for. Like, that's always been part of our core mission statement has always been to make sure that we're delivering on the highest quality possible. So that's giving a lot of opportunities for our team to grow. So we try to do a lot of internal training, making sure that we're hiring people that are, have a good eye at the start, but are also willing to learn and kind of adopt the toolkit and kind of set of things that we do. And then I was gonna say we also have like our internal Slack channels where people will post their work in progress, and it's the opportunity to roast their work and make sure that everything is looking great, and everyone takes that fairly well and able to kind of like make sure that we're critiquing internally and making sure that we're providing a really good experience for our end customer. And then we're also always looking at technology and how does like we really quickly, when Unreal Engine 5 came out, we had been looking at the source code and making sure that we knew how this was going to play out before 5.0 officially launched. When 5.0 officially launched, we were able to really quickly change a lot of our workload and pipeline to best take use of those new features. And that's really helped us stay kind of ahead of the curve on quality, making sure we're leveraging all of the kind of best features of the engine, as well as still being able to maintain our quality, I guess.
And I know that your team does lots of projects. Some are in the cloud, some are not. How do you decide when an app should be or have a cloud app component versus other times it does not?
Yeah. I mean, now in the last probably year, every single project has some cloud component because it's just so easy for us to midway through upload specifically to Equal3D for like very beginning of concept where we've got white blocking models. Like, okay, here's some look and feel, make sure that this feels right. And going through all of the different iterations every weekly that we do with a customer, we send them an Equal3D link because we've got it. It's easy. And they can kind of see how the project is progressing. But when we're looking at full kind of deployments, we'll definitely use pixel streaming when that's kind of a larger audience. If we need kind of ease of deployment where there's no real hardware requirement, anybody can get to it from a website. So that's typically where we would use it, which is most of the time. And then kind of where we wouldn't is specifically around VR. I know we could do things with kind of CloudXR and streaming VR, and that is possible, but typically we're already using so much of the GPU that it kind of becomes I don't know, we end up with bad frame rates when we try to do that. And then kind of two other spaces would be if we're doing something like a kiosk experience where it's just going to be always on and like the consumption costs just don't make sense. So putting a physical device there makes sense, or trade shows where we don't necessarily know what our internet capability is going to look like. That would be a time to just send a machine. But other than that, we like to use it. And I try to make sure that we're always kind of testing our projects against that hardware. So we know that we're performant and the projects are going to run smoothly.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. And by the way, we took a poll during these questions, and it was, when was UE5 officially released? The answer is, or Matt, do you, not to put you on the spot, do you?
5. I think that was, what would that be? That was just 2022, let's say March.
Yes, very well. Yes, it was. So I guess the official release was April 5th.
Okay.
So nicely done, sir. And Stephanie, let's return to you for a moment. And I know that one of the most important things with some of the apparel that you're involved in is fit. So why is fit so important to you? And then what does that mean when you're using a game engine to represent fitted clothing?
Yeah. So let me ask you, what's the number one reason why you may return a product?
It don't fit.
It doesn't fit. When products don't fit, they either wind up in a drawer, back of closets, or they're return products, which is a heavy load that the brand has to undertake with what to do with that product when it is returned. So fit is absolutely crucial. And because we deal with so many layers of different substrates and materials that have different moduluses, they don't have static states. Like, when you're building a car, it's a very static modality. So when we're working with fit across not only one body type, but the entire population of a product line. So for an example, an extra small to a 3X is 8 sizes, and that's for one body type of a woman. That's very different than a body type for a man. And then you go into the additional complexity of either footwear or bras. Bras can have up to 100 different sizes. So you're having to counterbalance different masses and body weights and position on the torso. And so you have to take all of that composition and skin composition and really understand how that product is not only going to work in a static state of somebody just standing still, but is going to move and function as that person performs different activities in their life. So that's not only important for apparel, then you add on the additional complexity of wearables and medical devices, where we work with medical devices that have to deliver life-saving therapy to patients and revive them and often, save their life. So we then add in that additional complexity of having skin connectivity through all the different performance and functionality of that garment. Working all the way back in our virtual pipeline, our virtual thread, we can do a lot of the simulations and testing in virtual environments before we get to physical product, and using the gaming engine to showcase these to clients at different stages has been a huge unlock for us. And incorporating virtual fit and design has been huge. I think the other complexity that a lot of people maybe don't consider is that building an avatar in a small medium is very easy. Building one who has a lot more mass on their body, like a 1X or 2X, is very challenging. And then adding the animation and getting them to move that mimics physical and physical properties in the real world is highly challenging, and that's where we excel. So having the gaming engine, having pixel streaming showcase that, not only from in a development stage, but also to a consumer client-facing stage, is again, it's in our wheelhouse. It's what we do. It's what we do best.
And so do you think a metahuman could ever be an option for your team, or is it more of like a totally custom approach that would have to be taken for the avatars?
Yeah, we have a custom approach. We've looked at metahumans in the past. They just don't have the physical qualities that represent actual humans at different sizes and shapes that really reflects the consumer today. So also a statistic is over 60% of women in the US are size 16 plus. And so that is a very different body weight and size than you're dealing with like a medium or a metahuman that reflects more of the smaller size scale.
Got it. Got it. Makes sense. And I know that we do have some questions trickling in from the chat, and so we will definitely get to them. So don't feel like we are ignoring your questions. We will definitely get to them. And please ask more because the questions that are coming in are very, very good. Okay, let's transition to the next segment, which is What If, where we ask a little bit more open-ended questions to some of our panelists. And so, Hannes, let's perhaps start with you. Let's imagine it's 2030. What are some of the cool use cases that Black Shark could be used for? Do you think we could calculate the surface area of a certain building site and add to determine how many solar panels are on the side, or what do you think could be some cool use cases in the future?
For this particular use case, we are there already. So the calculation of potential solar panel for roofs, that only depends on the input data. But what we extract with our pipeline is also metadata, so materials and so on. Or currently one use case is to use our building volumes for mixed reality occlusion calculation already. And nothing limits us to apply this technology to indoor use cases as well. So basically, we provide here a very, or in 2030, we provide a very detailed context and meta information about each pixel, indoor, outdoor, which is then perfectly usable for mixed reality applications. See, okay, where do I want to stick particular information on top of it in my mixed reality glasses? Because I know this object is made of this material, or this is the light switch, and so on. So basically, we just, yeah, bringing our approach to the next level in terms of accuracy and use cases.
Cool. Yeah, it just made me picture a fully photorealistic world, interior and exterior.
Yeah, the big difference to photogrammetry is basically that we have the underlying metadata. So photogrammetric models look nice, totally fine. But the metadata about what is it is missing. The semantics below is missing in photogrammetrics. And we provide exactly that context so that you can enrich it with all kinds of additional information based on this knowledge baked into the semantic information.
Very cool. So Matt, what type of metaverse experience would you love to build? And why is that?
It's a great question. I think that for me personally, I think that a lot of our team, probably everybody that got into Unreal Engine development wanted to make games. So I think adding some level of gamification to these kinds of bigger branded experiences. I know that most of what we do today is a marketing experience or a product demonstration or something along those lines. But I'd love to look at how do we do something that's more about team building or internal company culture building, and having like what I think about for my team is when we were all in the office before we started kind of permanent remote work, we had a pool table, and at lunch we'd play pool, and we had like tournaments, and we had leaderboards and all kinds of different stuff. And that was kind of a fun team building, which we've kind of lost since going fully remote. We don't have there's no virtual pool table, so maybe that's what we need to go build is a virtual pool in the metaverse. But I'd love to kind of look at what that type of experience could be and how we can kind of build that and add that gamification.
And just to ask a little bit more about team building and collaboration. So how could that work in the metaverse? Would it be sort of like a multi-user experience that we see in certain video games like Call of Duty, where there's multiple people, or what could collaboration look like in the metaverse?
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely could be that. And I know like there were some stories early in kind of the work from home where people were all jumping on Red Dead Redemption to have team meetings, and they were sitting around the virtual campfire. So definitely could be, I guess, something like that. But kind of more what I'm thinking is trying to work with still having that corporate executive briefing center type experience where you could bring customers, but make it also something that your employees want to go visit. Make it something that's more than just something that you want to look at one or two times or once a month. Make it to have something that kind of can bring you back to it. So I think I'm not 1,000% sure what that engagement would exactly be, but I just want to kind of dive into more of that. I think that there's too many of these things that we build them, they're awesome, they solve the problem, but the problem could be solved. Like it's there's a pretty linear start and finish to these projects. So
awesome. Thank you, Matt. So, Mark, one of the things that I kind of wonder is, do you think that digital twins will ever get to the point to where, we have the entire city simulated, we can do virtual urban planning and development? And if you think we'll ever get to that point, what kind of cities do you think could benefit and thrive most having, you know, a very fully fleshed out digital replica?
Mm. I mean, that's a good question. Like how will it change the development process of cities, and what will those cities look like? Um, yeah, I mean, I guess from a governmental involved development perspective, they should be more efficient from an investment and a return. Uh, there should be, yeah, like efficiency in a lot of government processes, or in transportation, or in commute, in metrics that we use to measure happiness. These should improve for sure, just based upon leveraging data and successfully implementing this digital twin process. For me, I think it's where I find a lot of excitement is in digital twins of human experiences. So I think that's where when I started to get closer to like how can we really replicate a digital twin process of a city, I started to find a lot of passion in digital twin processes of attending a yoga class, you know, or attending a virtual party, and these ideas of closely resembling that space and that energy from a real life, because we don't need to create it because it's interesting enough as it is, and recreating those real experiences virtually. I think that gives a lot of power to people, no matter where they are in the globe, to go where they want. So I think, to me, I think I'm more excited about this than I am about how efficient cities will become. But I think that there is definitely a large improvement that can be undertaken, and I think we're seeing a lot of these initiatives from cities, especially within the Middle East, as they're in the development process of a lot of cities, that they can actually plan from the ground up how they build the infrastructure, how they have the development strategy, master planning, how all the services fit in together. So I think in these cities we'll start to get a pretty good idea of how efficient it can become. So I think the Middle East is moving ahead in a lot of these ways.
Very, very cool. And Stephanie, would you ever consider using AI or incorporating biometric data into your wearables? Can we make fit even more personalized and customized than it already is by your organization? What are some of your thoughts about the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So we already incorporate biometric data into our builds, depending on the project, of course, but we also implement AI in our development already, and that's getting smarter and better, and the training of it is getting better. And as far as integrated devices on the market, I absolutely think that is a huge it's going to be a huge market. I think the biggest innovations right now that are happening in physical product is in materials, and materials are getting softer. We're having batteries that we can now integrate into garments that can be washed, and so getting wearables and integrated devices, even supported with AI, is definitely the path of the future.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. And we'll transition now to the Q&A. I know we're running super, super short on time. So sorry, team, if we do not get to all these questions, but we'll try to get as many answers as possible. The first one looks like it is for Mark and or Hannes. It is considering the relevance of optimization for deploying architectural models on a world scale. How do you view the potential impact of nanite virtualized geometry in Unreal?
Hannes, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, not just for buildings, but in general, to provide the entire globe in photorealism. Nanite is just a fantastic technology, and yeah, Epic did a very good job on that. So, of course, we are having a close look on that, and investigating how we can combine it and leveraging it for our purpose as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Hannes. So next question is, and this may be best for Matt, but Matt, just let me know if you think you're the right person. So when it comes to online metaverse XR collaborations, how do you view Meta Horizons and the upcoming Microsoft Mesh plus Mesh SDK based cross-platform applications integrated with Teams, etc.?
Yeah, I think, from my perspective at least, all that technology is it's always cool to see where it's going and what kinds of things start to kind of feed in, and where I don't know, if for us we'll kind of watch that space and see where things go. Yeah, overall I think it's good to see the technology improve. I don't know if anybody else has any more direct connection with those techs, but
Yeah, I really don't have much experience on my end. So
we're very much Unreal focused for the
yes,
most part. So
yeah,
as those things start to get connected with Unreal, we'll definitely check them out. But yeah.
cool. Stephanie, a question for you. Is your industry concerned about microplastics, and do you use simulation for sustainability for your clothing products?
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons why we have that virtual thread through our pipeline, is to be as sustainable as possible. And absolutely, microplastics are a concern. There's so much material technology and innovation that is happening to combat microplastics. And I think more and more brands are adopting those. And also, there's a lot of initiatives happening with brands that are, setting deadlines on when they're going to get rid of microplastics, or instead just fully transfer into recycled products completely. And then there's also initiatives on how do they then go back from an environmental perspective and support the communities, and on a global scale, where they're even manufacturing their goods.
Cool. Thank you, Stephanie. This one may be for the group. We are looking at an interactive world that is interweaved with our website. My question is, how do we keep the customer UX fluid from a pixel stream environment back to the web page and back again without making it feel disjointed?
I mean, we were discussing something similar for our client here in the Middle East. But there is a time that is required for engaging the streamer that the game must load. So I would think it's about how kind of like intuitive that process is, because I don't believe you can kind of engage the streamers before you're ready for the user to view the content, because it would be inefficient from a commercial perspective. So I think it's part of the nature of the application, in my opinion. I don't know if there's a creative way to solve that, but yeah, I think that would be my understanding.
Make sure you've got really good splash screens that tie in with everything around
Yeah.
it. Try and hide that loading as much as possible. Yeah.
A funny line while you're waiting. Yeah.
So next question is, I've noticed hesitation of UE users to upgrade, so curious what version of UE they are shipping on right now, and does pixel streaming enable them to upgrade faster? So, I think I interpret that question as, what version of Unreal Engine are you pixel streaming, and why?
We're on the latest for most of our projects.
Is there a
We've
particular...
got a pretty low barrier to upgrade for individual projects.
So I guess 4.27 is kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit. Cool.
We have one project that stays there because it's got 360 capture, and Ansel still works really well with that. We don't run into any issues, so it stays on that project. But for the most part, yes, everything new is on 5.1 for us. But.
Cool. And last question, and this is a little thought-provoking. What is the perspective on the recent layoffs industry-wide regarding metaverse? Is the metaverse bubble bursting, or what is the reality of the industry moving forward?
So we focus mainly on, we call it professional metaverse, industrial metaverse. Whenever this kind of metaverse creates business value, everything is fine. I think there was a big bubble with the metaverse and so on, but without a real business value behind or a clear idea and user value, and then of course it's getting tricky. So metaverse is happening, but I think we need to focus on specific use cases where added value is provided.
I think you see that curve with any new technology where there's that like immediate hype, lots and lots of things that happen, it falls off, and then we figure out how to actually monetize it, make it useful, and then it starts to grow back up. So I'm sure we're kind of in that dip, and how far that dip goes, is still kind of up for debate. But.
Yep, that's what I was picturing, that same curve. I mean, the internet went through it as well. Okay, last question. It is for Hannes. Do you get architectural small features, arches, balconies, etc., with accurate 3D coordinate space?
Nope, not yet. So we have models reconstructing this, but currently we don't detect those details. So all those details you see currently in our models are basically generated with our artificial intelligence. So represented but not detected.
Got it. Thank you, Hannes. And everyone, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedules. I can't believe we're already at the end of the hour. Any last closing thoughts or comments from anyone? Well, then I would like...
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you all so much for taking time out of your schedules. I sincerely appreciate it. I know some of us are traveling and some of us had to trudge through snow, so thank you all. Really appreciate it. Thank you everyone for watching. This has been Opportunities with Pixel Streaming, and be sure to catch us on our next show. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah.
See you all.
Yep.
And we are off.